Hello, how you doing? My name's Bob, and I wanted to talk today about a very sensitive subject, and that is child abuse. When I was very young, I lived in a dysfunctional family. My mom and dad fought constantly, and sometimes it would get rather physical. Um, I remember vividly, and it's hard to talk about this, really is, but I remember hiding underneath my bed at times. I would, crouch in the corners, and it just got kind of tough. My dad was very stern, and that's the way he was brought up. I never could please him. Anything that I did, he would always cut me down. He would just be mean and cruel. There was some physical abuse. He would hit me or push me down on the floor. He did slam me up against the wall a couple of times. And of course, my mom would yell at him and tell him if he ever did it again, she would kill him. And it just got really, really bad. The damage that was done has really affected me throughout the years. I've gone through tons of therapy. Um, it's affected my intimate relationships as well as jobs that I've been on, any career opportunities. Um, but I stayed in the victim role for years and years and years. Um, and I think that really stumped me and put me in a stuck place in life where I couldn't go anywhere or do anything. One thing that I did learn about my abuser is I always wondered why he was the way he was. And I took some time to get out of myself instead of looking at my dad as this big, huge monster that was out to get me. I saw him as a human man, you know, and all of a sudden it took this kind of little boy type attitude and put me more into the place of being objective and looking and seeing exactly why he was the way he was. My dad, when was brought up in Vermont, and when I understood it from his family, he was a great man. Everybody loved him. He was happy, pleasing, well thought of. Somehow or another, though, when he came south here in Charlotte, North Carolina, he changed. He became a very miserable, irritable man. Um, I don't really know exactly the circumstances. I know his first wife died. And I think that broke his heart. I think too that he was a little bit resentful because he got my mother pregnant, and I don't think he was expecting that. And then, of course, when they had me, I understand that my mom really talked him into that because she wanted to have a boy. And I think my dad resented that also. So, I mean, there was a double whammy there. My sister was she's 6 years older than I am. So, I mean, by the time I got up in my early teens, she was already out and married. Um, my dad and I fought constantly. I had no discipline except for the fact of him yelling and screaming at me and calling me a moron and stupid. I never would amount to anything. Constant negative messages. I acted out in school. I got in trouble constantly. Um, and pretty much got into a standpoint a few times of suicidal ideations. And I remember that being as early as when I was 10 or 11 years old. Was thinking about it. Um, it took me a lot of years to be able to grow out of this, be able to talk about it, be able to reach out and maybe help you if you're going through that, either being the abuser or the abusee. Um, I can understand the person that does the abuse. It'd been easy for me to fall in that trap with my daughter. But luckily, through therapy and understanding, I was able to raise her as normal as possible. My wife and I did have our problems, but we were able to get our daughter into a place where she could grow up and not have that negative kind of abusive things going on. I implore that if you are an abuser and you're watching this video, please find help. There is help and hope out there for you to stop doing this. If you're an abusee, once again, if you're a child of an abuser, a lot of times that's more difficult because there's not a whole lot you can do. If you're a teacher and you're in the classroom and you see this going on, and most teachers will say they can tell when a child has been abused, I would say report it. You know, it's better that the child be removed from that situation than to go through it. That's my philosophy. That's just a little bit about myself. I know there's a lot of you out there that have gone through the same thing. You're survivors of abuse. And luckily, I've been able to accept it and move on. And, you know, at times it haunts me, you know, a little bit of PTSD, I think, post-traumatic stress disorder, which I went to a psychiatrist and they didn't buy that. Don't know why, they just didn't buy it. But I do have some, at times, like if I'm out doing something and something happens, it reminds me of that relationship with my father, and I'll typically get into a fight or flight mode. That's happening a lot. Let's talk about it for a minute too. I'm sorry, I brought up the intimate relationships. I'm really incapable, and that's truthful. I'm very incapable of being able to sustain intimate relations, especially with women. I've had major problems with that. I've talked to a lot of therapists, and they are not willing to help me in that area. They say that, you know, if I work on myself, learn how to get along with myself, and then having an intimate relationship will fall in place. I don't know if I believe that or not, to be honest with you. But, you know, intimate relations have been rather difficult for me. I do have a lot of trust issues when it comes to trusting anybody in really intimate relations. So that's my 2 cents worth when it comes to abuse. Please find help any way that you can. Get out of the martyr and the victim role. Understand your abuser and look at your abuser in a more humanistic form versus this big monster that's out to get you. And if you want to put any comments below, please do so. And we'll try to find some links also for you that you can click on below to get some help. Thanks for listening.